Christ is king, it's where we belong. Stay with the dream, don't lose your way. Right way's the fire that'll light the day. Keep it simple, let the moment arrive. 3-8 trap keeps the hope alive. Hold on tight till the signal's near. Right way's the trail, we're breaking through fear.
Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for Wednesday, October 1st, 2025. Well, a little bit of a change here this morning. After pushing up into the close yesterday, we have a pretty substantial gap down. They're already trying to fight back here and pull it back up at the moment. But obviously we have that situation of government shutdown having some negative impact on the market this morning. Will it continue? Will it not? We'll find out as the day goes along. But how about we take a look at what happened overnight? First off, if we take a look at Asian markets were mostly higher last night. We had Shanghai up $20.24 or 0.52%. Hong Kong was up 232.68, 0.87%. India was up 225.20 or 0.92%, while the Nikkei fell 381.78 or 0.85%. And we saw Australia declining by just $3.10 or 0.04%. European markets are up this morning, and they're actually celebrating the pharma news yesterday with the big cuts in prices from companies. So interesting, but the DAX is zooming here today, up 122.87 or 0.52% higher. FTSE is up 67.02, 0.72% higher, and the CAC is up 33.51, up 0.42% higher. U.S. futures this morning, however, not as stellar. Right at the moment, Dow futures down 223 points, but that is an improvement of the morning lows, or overnight lows. S&P 500 futures down 36.25, and NASDAQ futures down 154 points here at the moment. If we take a look at what's going on in those bond prices, well, interestingly enough, they are moving up just slightly. 2-year bond is at 3.60%. That's pretty stable in there. But if we take a look at the 10-year has moved up a few tenths to 4.15%, and the 30-year is currently trading at 4.74%. As that little bit of worry, concern about what happens from here is playing some volatility, or bringing volatility, I should say, to those bond markets. If we take a look at what's going on in the U.S. dollar, interestingly enough, U.S. dollar is working a recovery here at this moment, up at almost 3 cents here on dollar futures, as you can see, trying to hold in there on that little upside trend. Let's see if we can get a little bit of bullishness going in here and see that follow on through to the upside. While that's happening here, boy, gold reversed yesterday. It was moving down, reversed yesterday, pushing right back up as we move closer and closer to a shutdown. And this morning we are gapping up here substantially. Right now, gold futures are up $40 an ounce, $3,915 an ounce here this morning. Not looking like it's ready to pull back just yet. And if we take a look at silver futures, silver is also moving higher, coming in at the moment up 71 cents at 47.35 an ounce on silver. Copper also continuing to move higher here this morning and had a little tiny pullback in there yesterday, but we saw copper miners continuing to move up. Right now up less than a penny, but trying to move higher here this morning on copper. Platinum is moving back up here. Gap down yesterday, reversed and started coming back up. Platinum gapping up a little bit here. $7.50 higher per ounce, 0.47%. And palladium doing the same, up $6.10 an ounce or 0.47%. If we take a look at cryptos, they're having a good morning as well. After kind of a choppy day yesterday, we've got Bitcoin this morning stretching up in a big way as fear probably helping, fear and uncertainty of the government shutdown, helping to drive that. Right now up $2,034 a coin, 1.78% higher. We got Ether this morning up 146.85 a coin, 3.55%, trying to break back through resistance. And Solana also moving higher by $7.90 or 3.79% here this morning. Green across the board in those cryptos. Taking a look at oil markets, well, we continued to have a pretty rough day in oil yesterday. Been a little bit volatile here this morning. Right now we have oil futures down just 5 cents, 62.32 a barrel at the moment. Brent crude is coming in at 66 a barrel even. And if we take a look at natural gas, it's moving on higher here this morning. Right now up about 7.5 cents, trying to show a little bit of willingness to hold these recent lows and maybe basing in here. You might also want to take a look at like BOIL, trying to come up out of this bottom here a bit as well, so keep an eye on that. So let's take, well, I think that's it. Let's plan on settling in and let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Wednesday, the hump day edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate it. Let's take a look at some of these index charts and see if we can figure out how we might want to approach the market for today. Remember, we want to look at these charts for what they are, not for what we want them to be. Look at them without bias if you can, and really focus in on that price action here for a bit so that we can figure out how we would want to approach this today. Well, clearly yesterday we were trying to shake this off, maybe confidence that they would come to a deal before the close. I'd maybe a little bit of that end of quarter window dressing coming into play at the end of the day yesterday. But as you can see, this morning we gapped down and we were testing heavily this area of price support. We've been down here. We've tested this several times, and so far the bulls have been able to defend this area of price support. So if the bulls can continue to find that inspiration to defend this area of support, then let's watch this carefully and see if we can break back through. I think we've got a little area of resistance starting to set up right here. If we can push through there, then I think we're right back up here testing this resistance and possible all-time highs. Blue sky above there in the diamonds. You'll notice yesterday we made an attempt. If we would have closed at the high of that candle yesterday, we would have had a new record high in the diamonds. So we're very close to being able to do that. If the bears, however, have anything to say, if we see more selling today and we start breaking down below this area in the chart, probably would raise a little bit of concern, but I don't think it's going to raise a whole lot of concern unless we were to push down through some of these areas. Take out this recent whipsaw low here in the market, and then I think we raise a bit more on that concern here in the market. So watch that carefully if those bears were to really get going here on the day. Now, if we take a look at our SPY, SPY also had a pretty good stretch back up yesterday and then whipsawed right at the end of the day with a little bit of selling coming back in. Unfortunately, that does leave us this little bit of uncertainty in here still, where we could be looking at that lower high here in the market. Gapping down through that low here of yesterday is something we'll want to be watching pretty closely. If the bulls can find inspiration here, then, and I think there's every reason they could, then we could push up and see if we can break back through this little area of price resistance in the chart. And by the way, that kind of runs all the way through over here. If those bulls can push through there, then I think we have that chance. We're back up here testing all-time highs in the SPY. However, if those bears have anything to say and we react negatively here today to this little area of resistance, then I would suggest our next move down would be to test this area of support once again in the chart. If that support holds, no harm, no problem comes to the market, I don't think, because that's a pretty strong area of price support. As I've said, and I'll continue to say, I don't think this gets ugly in the market unless we break these lows down here. And if we do, I think we're going to see a little bit of pressure coming into the market and maybe at least a modest pullback or correction in the market could be possible. If we take a look at our QQQ, no major harm done here just yet. You can see we did push back down below that little level that we were holding on to yesterday. Push down in the gap down this morning. We'll see if we've got enough bullish energy to start pushing this back up. If we can break back through this area up in here, then I think there's every reason to believe we could push right on through, retest all-time highs, and maybe even break out here in the chart. And one of the things we have certainly seen from this market is it defies gravity. It doesn't matter what they throw at the market, they just want to be a buyer. So we have to be continuing to lean in to the idea that we'll just shake this off and make new record highs until we see something different in the chart. Don't bet against this market until you actually see those bears showing a willingness to do much of anything. If however they do, and we see those bears attack here today, pushing back down from this area, would start watching some little bit of area support right in there and then testing this area here. But once again, guys, I don't think this gets too terrible bad. We'd have to take out that low, and I think probably take out this low before we would have some major concern coming into the QQQ. So watch that carefully here. Now remember, this still would technically serve as a potential lower high, and that's always the concern in a market. When we can't make higher highs, then eventually we usually tend to see the bears, those opportunistic bears, kind of make a push here to drive that down. So watch that carefully. Now let's take a look at that IWM. IWM here in the chart also made that lower high, and because it doesn't benefit from any of the big tech giants, which it was largely NVIDIA. NVIDIA had almost double the volume of every other stock in the market yesterday. So really strong move there in NVIDIA as it pushed up to new record highs. But as you can see, still running that concern in here that we are slipping in IWM. So watch that carefully. If the bulls can find inspiration here and bounce off of this area like we did yesterday, bounce back up in here, then start pushing back up through these levels here in the chart. Maybe we can stretch up toward this resistance retest up here before we break out to those all-time highs. If, however, the bears have anything to say, you can see it really wouldn't take a big shove to probably push us off that edge right there, and then we might be down here taking a look at this recent low, that whipsaw low here in the market, and then possibly even pushing right on down into this level. So watch that carefully here on IWM, and that lower high would be a bit of a concern if it makes that lower low. Let's take a look at our VIX. Our VIX here in the market yesterday, although it pulled back from the high of the day, actually made a little bit of an increase in the VIX as we were making and nearly making record highs. Our VIX has been slowly grinding to the upside, showing us that fear and uncertainty. And we'll see if this morning, this gap down here will inspire that VIX to start moving up. And I think there's a possibility that it will. If we pop up and break through this area of resistance this morning, that's where a little bit of worry will start coming in as we break up through there. Remember, we're setting near record highs with a rising VIX. Something is out of sync here, and although the market is very resilient in showing that willingness, we'll just ignore it and we'll just push on higher. That does speak a lot to this overbought bubble conversation that continues to be popping up here in the market. So watch that carefully. If we start to sell, I do worry that a lot of people will get trapped here in a big potential sell-off, because as we run for the door, we can move a lot of points really quickly in the market and really injure a lot of folks that have that idea that the market just will never sell off again. So watch that carefully. Now, if we take a look at our T2122 yesterday, interesting day in this. We had pushed down into this area below 30% at the low point yesterday, and we whipsawed back and forth multiple times yesterday, and it was just right at the end of the day. I think it was that end of quarter window dressing that really helped out a lot, pushed us back up to where we were nearly flat on T2122 as we headed toward today, and now getting that gap down here this morning. So watch this closely. I suspect T2122 will be back down in this area here, and we'll want to be watching that pretty closely. We've got plenty of room for the bears to work if they do have anything to say, but we also have a lot of room for those bulls if they have anything to say. So we're kind of straddling that fence here around the middle, which is interesting going into a government shutdown. You would think there would be a little bit more bearish activity, but the resilience of those bulls right now is just remarkable, even in the light of very high valuations. That nobody seems to care. If we take a look at T2108, percentage of stocks above the 40-day moving average, that end of day rally pushed us right back up, and we held on to this low. We were considerably lower, pushing down toward 40% at the low of the day, but that big rally at the end of the day pushing us back up. I suspect this morning we'll see that breaking back down here. Remember, below the 50% is a little bit of a psychological level in the market, so watch that carefully. If we get those bears really to act nasty here and start breaking down through 40%, well, then we start running into that situation where we could move pretty sharply to the downside, I think. So watch that carefully. Now, T2107, it was making that move to the downside yesterday as well, but by the end of the day, with that zooming end-of-day rally, pushed this right back up. So no harm here in that chart if the bears have anything to say. Let's watch this area of support down in here to see whether or not that breaks, and I think it could, because we were doing that heading into that yesterday on those lows. But watch this area of 50%. That'll be kind of a critical area if we were to move down below there. That is a little bit of that psychological level in here. Doesn't mean that we fall all apart, though, because we've got some good support levels down through here. As you can see, we could grab into that 45% area and hold just fine. So watch that carefully here today. If the bulls can push through and shake this off like nothing going on, I could see that possibility that we could break right on through here as well in T2107. That's been holding up really well. T2101, well, kind of tough in here on T2101. As we push back up yesterday, we continue to have that really weak breadth here in the market. As a matter of fact, as we pushed up into the end of the day, our breadth declined, showing that that participation in the market is still very, very weak. And this does, at this point with the bearish move this morning, kind of favor the bears, because if the bears really were to grab onto something here and push, I think we could see that breadth pushing up on that bit of fear. So watch that carefully. But if the bulls can shake this off, we need to see those bulls step up with a little bit of breadth. Unfortunately, that's going to be kind of tough for them to do at the moment, because we're in that corporate blackout period as we wait for the next round of earnings. And remember, the big banks, we're going to be waiting. JP Morgan's one of the first to report. We're going to be waiting till mid this month before we start picking up on those earnings reports. So watch that carefully here. We have a bit of a waiting period, so choppy conditions, even a choppy consolidation is possible if those bears don't get a little bit feisty here. Just a choppy range-bound consolidation could be possible. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. In our economic calendar, we do have a few things that could inspire both the bulls or bears. We've got mortgage applications here this morning. I suspect this could be a little bit rough here today because ever since the rate cut, rates have gone up in bonds. So watch this carefully here today. Might be a little bit of a rough one. We've got ADP here this morning. They are suggesting a little bit of decline in employment numbers from 54,000 to 50 on those private payrolls. So keep an eye on that. We've got a manufacturing PMI here this morning. They're suggesting that stays flat at 52. Remember, anything above 50 shows that there's growth in here. And by the way, the prior was 53, but the flash was 52. So kind of staying in that range. If that occurs, I don't see that having a major impact on the market. A miss in there is where we'd have a problem. And the ISM in here, ISM is looking to improve just slightly to 49, up from 48.7. Again, that might provide a little bit of bullish inspiration, and particularly if we were to miss this to the upside and get back above that 50 where we're seeing some growth in the ISM, that would be interesting here on the day. And then construction spending will be out. They're looking at that staying flat here this morning. So keep an eye on those figures. We've got a petroleum status report, and then we're going to be into bond auctions and more Fed speak. So watch that carefully here as well. Looking into tomorrow, no major events that we would expect to be pretty challenging, but we're going to get Challenger job cut report. We're going to get jobless claims, factory orders, natural gas, and some bond auctions in here. You want to make note that on Friday, because of the government shutdown, we will not be getting the employment situation number here, which continues to add a little bit of that uncertainty here on what's happening in jobs. So watch that carefully. Let's take a look at, excuse me, I'm having a little bit of a throat issue. If you've ever wondered if this video is done live, it is done live, and I record it all in one session, so now you know. Apologize for a little bit of crunchy voice here. If we take a look at earnings for today, we have a few notables here to be paying attention to. We have AYI reporting this morning. Keep an eye on that. Looks like it's moving just a tiny bit lower here this morning. CALM is also reporting. A little drop and pop start trying to happen in that one. We've got ConAgra that is reporting this morning, moving maybe just a tiny bit higher, and RPM. Those are your notables here this morning. obviously moving lower here on RPM here this morning. And then nothing this afternoon. I have a list that says Levi Strauss is supposed to report this afternoon, but when I check other things, well, such as right here, there is no Levi Strauss report, I don't think, this afternoon. So we have no notables for this afternoon. So kind of keep an eye on those notables here for today. Let's take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube and also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor, click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. Excuse me, that helps the channel to continue to grow. And I want to wish you all a great day and wish you all great thanks for the support of this channel. I never in my wildest dreams would have expected this many people supporting content that it's not all hype, it's not all prediction, it's just really looking at the markets. And so thank you. And you could help me out a lot if you would share this video on your social media feed, letting your friends and family know about these videos. If they happen to be traders, maybe they could find something here as well to be helpful to them in their trading. And let's take a look at a few of these stocks that could be setting up. Remember, everyone, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence and be very, very careful in this market. Clearly, we could see some big price moves today. Now, having said that, we should take a look at Apple. Apple, this is a beautiful little bull flag here. Nice little resting pattern in here in that chart on Apple. We're hovering just below that opportunity to make a new record high. If we were going to shake off this data today, this would be a good stock to be keeping an eye on for that opportunity that might push right on through to the upside. On the other hand, if those bears do get active in here, watch that carefully. We could lose this candle here today and start pushing that back down. Now, that wouldn't necessarily be a direct short for me. I need more of that push down and then rally back failure for me to get short in a trade. But watch that one carefully. Nice looking chart overall. Just keep a close eye on that. Microsoft is another one that I would keep an eye on. Very nice pattern. This is where we pushed back down, retested this support. We're rallying up. We're trying to hold in here on trend. If those bulls can get anything going here today, then we have that opportunity that could push on through to the upside. I'd keep an eye on a chart like that looking pretty good. Now, you guys have heard me over and over and over talk about stocks like TJ Maxx. When we look at these resting consolidation levels in here, you never know exactly how long it's going to take for that to go. But just that chart right there, guys, should show you that these patterns do matter. And if we are patient and wait for these trades, we can actually improve our win-loss ratio in trading. We trade a little bit less, but we make a little bit more by being patient for these patterns to play out. You can see these patterns repeat themselves. We break through, we hold, and push on up, and we just keep resting and pushing on up and resting and pushing on up. So watch that carefully here. As long as those bulls stay in control, keep an eye on a stock like this. If it rests or pulls back now after breaking through up here, then I would suggest a little consolidation and then look for the next opportunity for that to push on higher. Take a look at Cleveland Cliffs. I am holding this, and although it had a really bad day yesterday, pushing back to test support is not a reason to sell that trade. So still holding in this position. Remember, I'm hedged up here with the short strike. And if this can hold in here, show that bullishness. We're certainly seeing that in precious metals. Why not steel? if we see that concern here in the market. We know that what's going on in this country right now is massive building going on. And I would expect steel to be one of those things that could continue to get lots of attention here over the next several years of construction in this country. So watch that carefully for that opportunity that might move on higher here in CLF. Nice looking chart overall. We had such a strong pullback in oil here recently. It's interesting to me that APA is still holding in here above support. I would watch that carefully. If we get any bounce back in that oil sector, we had a big strong pullback. If we get any bounce back in that oil sector, take a look at APA. I think that has an opportunity of that upside move that could be coming along in here worth paying attention to, I think. You've got to continue to keep an eye on these miners. Those miners in here, individual miners and things like GDX and GDXJ for the miners are good ETFs to be paying attention to if you want a basket. But watch those carefully in here for that opportunity that could rest in here, come back to trend, find that support, push on through. If I pull this back in here, you can see we're at all-time highs here in Barrick Gold, and with gold continuing to move up, I would expect the miners will continue to celebrate to the upside. So keep an eye on some of those. That's looking pretty good overall. I would also keep an eye on utilities. Boy, utilities have been really doing a great job here, pushing up. And all you have to do, if you use TC2000 anyway, and it's something I recommend, you go to TC2000, put in XLU, and then just click one icon, and you can see everything that is moving in that sector. And you're going to find some really bullish charts in here on those utilities really shaping up, looking very good. And we know that with AI, we're going to be working really hard to supply just enough energy to support AI, and all of these utilities are going to benefit from that in that supply chain, pushing all that power to operate all of these data centers. So watch that carefully in here. Some really good looking stocks in this area. I mentioned Southern Company yesterday. Nice push and a nice setup in here, looking pretty good on Southern Company. You might also want to be keeping an eye on what's going on here in some of these defense sector stocks. RTX continuing to run to the upside. This is aerospace and defense. Of course, they're trying to resolve this Israel Hamas war right now, but the situation between Russia and Ukraine is still very fluid, and we're seeing good spending going into these companies. So watch that carefully here. RTX looking pretty good overall. General Dynamics looking really good. You could look at Lockheed Martin. That's breaking through, moving through to the upside. So even though we have a bearish market condition this morning, doesn't mean that you have to be bearish just yet. Because there's a lot of bullish charts out there to be paying attention to. And continuing on that theme of power, you need to keep an eye on some of these uranium plays. This nice little resting, consolidating pullback in here on UEC could easily find some support in here and see those bulls pushing on through to the upside. Power in anything that generates power is going to be of interest, including things like coal. Take a look at BTU as that continues to move to the upside. And this is moving up without me because I expected more of a rest or pullback, so I closed that trade. But breaking through this resistance up here is showing no stopping just yet. Any rest or pullback in here, though, I'll be looking for a re-entry into that trade in BTU. So keep an eye on some of those uranium plays. Keep an eye on those utilities. It's a good, safe place to go here in a market that might get a little bit uncertain here for a little while, so watch those things carefully. So with that, I've gone way past my time here this morning. Thank you so much to everyone who supports this channel. I appreciate it very much. And I want to wish you all a great trading day. And I'll see you right back here, bright and early Thursday morning. And as always, wish you all the very best.
Black and white candles, my stars in the dark. Price is my king, got that fire and spark. Rideways my ranch on the trader's trail. Trading with heart where the profits prevail.